Hello and welcome to another segment of Heal Thyself, Benefits of Holistic Living. I'm Mia Saenz, your host, and with me in this segment is Rusty Stewart. Now, Rusty is a relationship coach, but he takes it more than just what you would normally think. So enjoy this segment with us, and I'm going to introduce you to Rusty. Welcome, Rusty.
Thanks a lot, Mia. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm glad to have you. Thank you for being here. So will you share with us a little bit about yourself and what brought you into this field of what we are talking about with relationships and self-love and a lot of wonderful things?
Yeah, I guess that's a loaded question. I'd have to go way back to 1989. At the time, I was selling Yellow Page advertising as an account executive for Bell, Pennsylvania Diamond State Yellow Pages, which is now Verizon. And drinking and drugging myself to death. The actual slogan was, you play hard and you work hard. And so I was given a check at my 30th birthday party, which I won't go into specifics of what was there, but my friend gave me a check that was made out to LifeSpring for $100. She says, you have a year to use this. And what she meant by that is, knowing how self-righteous I can be, that there was no way that I was going to be interested in it unless I was given an open door. So I ended up doing it later that year in 1989 and ended up quitting my job at the Yellow Pages a month after that, doing the advanced course, and I've been involved with personal growth ever since then. And what really spoke to me was the way that groups work together. So I love working with groups, and I love working with couples and the dynamics of that, and it led me to get my Ph.D. in psychoeducational processes, which is basically group processes and group dynamics. And ever since then, I've just been fascinated by personal growth and, human potential. So I went from a waste product, basically, to somebody that helps people in all areas of life. And now coaching is what I primarily do, but I still do psychotherapy. So I got like all these certifications, and it's like if I went through everything, you'd be like, when did you ever have time to do all that?
That's awesome. It's funny because you and I, when I started reading your stuff and talking to you before this, we have similar paths, and it's becoming more and more apparent. I also went through, not LifeStream, but the what formed into WorldWorks, which is part of LifeStreams. From the LifeStreams was first, and then WorldWorks was second. So it's crazy because my title is Transformational Spiritual Practitioner, and yours is a Transformational Relationship Coach. So I love that. And to bring transformation, but do it in a loving manner, is the only true way to heal and shift and move, I feel. So
yeah, there's no question about that. You need somebody else to work with you. We can't do this by ourselves. We think we can. Just look at the successful people in life. They all have a coach, some type of mentor, some type of teacher. Indigenous cultures, they all have a teacher. We have to have something that's outside of our ego in order to see how we really show up in the world to others.
I totally agree. In fact, I have a couple of different coaches. So to keep me on those little paths I have an energy healing coach, and I have a business coach, and I have a nutritional coach. And yeah, I love it. It makes us more powerful when we take this into our own hands. So let's talk about, I want to hear your way of talking about it. Let's talk about self-love and blind spots.
Yeah, self-love is something that a lot of people, they think they love themselves, but all you have to do is listen to that little voice in your head. If you're wondering what that little voice is, that's the one. It's so subtle, but it's running all the time. So, for me, it's like the blind spots are the areas that I don't know that I don't know. And I don't even know that I don't know. So you have what you know. You have what I know I don't know, which is all in the area of what I know. And those areas are great intellectually. However, they're not useful to like propel yourself to do something that you haven't done, or a way of being that you'd like to be, that you know the recipe, or you know how to do it, but you still don't do it. Just like a diet, you're losing weight, and it's like we all know how to do that: eat right, exercise. But why don't we do it? It's because there's something from our past that's a blind spot, and you really need to have somebody or a group so that you can actually uncover that blind spot. And that's the difference between people that change, and change is kind of like this, and transformation, which will go straight up because all of a sudden we're awake and we know what was in the way. It's like in the encounter group movement, they used to call it the aha experience. So we need to get in touch with those blind spots, because many of those are what's getting in the way of self-love. And if we grew up with models that were showing us anything but love, then that's typically our definition of love, is what we grew up with. So everybody's got different definitions of love, but self-love is really putting yourself first, what I call selfful. You got selfish on one side and you got codependency on the other. And in the middle, you got being self-full, which is like a bank account. If you write a check and there's nothing in the savings account, nothing in your checking account, it's going to bounce. And so we need to give ourselves what we need first and foremost, so that then we can open ourselves up and give tons of love and light to others in our life. And that's the key. It's not one or the other. It's actually both.
That's awesome. Wonderful. Can you also talk about vision statements regarding relationships?
Yeah, what I found over the years is that you really need to be clear about who you are and what you're up to in the world, what your purpose is in the world, and what you want to create. And if you don't do that, then it's like trying to get, well, now it would be like what are they called? The things in the cars, not a map.
The navigational system.
The navigational system. Yeah, if you don't have a map or a navigational system, where the hell are you going? And that's what happens, is people then get into relationships and they don't know who they are, where they're going, and they'll end up selling out to other people and maybe their vision, but not have a strong sense of self. So a vision statement is in all areas of your life. You want it to be, pretty short, but you can post it all over your house, in the bathroom, whatever, to keep reminding you what you're up to and what you want in career, relationships, etc. And then from that, you can determine the requirements that are necessary in the relationship. If you don't know what the requirements are, that's actually one of the reasons the divorce rate is like 60%. Because people wake up, I don't know, 2, 3, 5, 20 years later, look at their partner and be like, who are you? They don't know, because they haven't really been connected to self, and they really chose many times somebody who's not really in alignment with what they're up to in life.
Yes, that's being very, very aware of self-awareness, and self-discovery will bring that. I think it's more, well, not the divorce rate, but I think it's probably like 90% of the population, if not 95, are in that situation because they haven't, out of 7 million people, they haven't, the majority have not analyzed their situation enough to know what they truly want. And that's kind of sad, could be even 98% now that I brought out the 7 billion people.
Well, yeah, and then if you want to take into you got to add in, like, you got the divorce rate, right? Then you got the people that are staying together because of finances, people that are staying together because of their children. Incidentally, that's not good. The research is clear on that. Or people that are staying together because of religion or some spiritual belief, or it's too difficult to get divorced. So, and then you got people that are just plain unhappy and don't take action. So your percentages probably are pretty correct. If you add in all those other things, how many people are truly living in a relationship that's passionate, that's yummy, that's like respect for one another, where you're both on the same page as equals and supporting each other equally. I think that's rare.
And what's even more rare is to have that and to have the passionate side in the bed along with it. That's very rare when you find the other stuff. So to bring it all together and to work it and to earnestly want that is really the complete package, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I mean, sex, it's interesting because sex will make us stupid if we have sex too quickly in a relationship, because it will blind the requirements. We are chemically put together to reproduce. And so it's a big cosmic joke from the creator, like, yeah, okay, so we're going to hop in bed, but then all the chemicals start getting in the way of us really distinguishing, who this person really is, who I really am. Am I going to take a stand for what I stand for in the world, or am I going to be numbed by the chemicals? So sex is an important piece. You got to talk about compatibility with sex, lifestyle, all these different things very early on. There's ways of doing that where you get honest answers, because a lot of times people will tell you what you want to hear. And that's not really what you want to hear. You want to hear the truth. You want to hear somebody coming from authenticity. So I always say you got to accept somebody for who they are and who they're not at the very beginning. Don't ever entertain the thought that they're going to change. You're setting yourself up for a big disappointment.
Absolutely. That was very well said. Thank you. Will you share with us about holistic integrative breathing for self-love?
Yeah, a number of years ago, one of my teachers, Dr. John O'Connor, out in New Jersey, at the time I was in a men's group. I was in a men's group for 7 years, and we would jump around to different therapists. And I thought this guy was a nut. He's like, we're moving over to breath class now. And I'm like, breath class? Well, I'm breathing just fine. So we lie down. I started having these experiences where I was one with the universe. I was expansive, and I knew inherently in my soul and in my higher self that this was what universal love is. This is what unconditional love is. It's not something that we can define, that we can really talk about. You have to experience it. And through the breath work and working with the different music that work with the different energy centers or chakras in the body, we start to clear out stuff from our past and keep our energy flowing, both in a way that's not too fast and too slow, because energy that gets stuck can cause cancer, and energy that moves too fast can cause stroke and heart attack. So it's like a way to constantly keep yourself in balance, and it's something you're doing for yourself. You're getting in touch with the higher self, which is the part that knows that you are loved and knows that that's what you're here to do, is to extend love. But first you have to realize that you're loved. So I found it to be the most powerful thing for self-love. And I just go into a sitting meditation after I do 25, 30 minutes of this type of breath work. So, and you'll all have an opportunity to experience that in the free gift. But it's amazing. It's amazing. And I put together these CDs using buying the music and then adding all these affirmations that go to the different chakras. So you're in a theta brainwave state when you do this type of breathing, which is the most suggestive state you can be in. So you're like reprogramming yourself, because what we basically are is computers in our brain. And to me, it's the most profound way of reprogramming yourself. But you got to make it a practice. You have to make it a practice.
I'm giggling because a lot of what you're saying, I totally get, I teach, and it's like, I always tell people, practice, practice, practice. So when you said that, I'm like, oh my God, we're right on the same wavelength there. That's awesome. Will you talk about exploring the real deal?
Well, exploring the real deal gets back to the whole requirements thing. You have to find out who somebody is. And once again, through the vision statement, you have to find out who you are. And the breathing helps you find out who you are. It's the real deal is who the person is that would show up 2 years after you've been in a relationship. Like I always say, like, until you live with somebody, I don't care if you go away for a month, you know there's an ending. So you got to get to know somebody really well at the beginning and find out what the real deal is with them. And there's ways that I teach people how to interview people. Now, that might sound like business-like or whatever, manipulative. But you got to find out the truth. And unless you're with somebody who's done a lot of personal growth work and is used to speaking authenticity or authentically, you know, you're going to find a lot of people tell you what to hear. So I teach people how to ask open-ended questions and use different inflection techniques so that you will get the true answer from them, as opposed to the one that they'd like to give you, hop in bed or get into what we call the mini marriage.
Okay, so that's perfect. Can you just give us one sample, one little tool trick, so we want to like come and investigate this more? What if a woman is getting into a relationship? Well, they both are, the man and the woman. Let's hope they both are, or that's their intention. And she wants to know what his intentions are. But you can't trap a man by, you know, pushing your agenda on him. So how would you speak that?
I might say something like, you know, there's so many people out there in the world that are like not into committed relationships, that seem to be, you know, either into swinging or they always want somebody else on the side. And, you know, I just don't understand, you know. And then at the same time, like everybody says, marriage is the best thing, you know. I get all confused by this stuff. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm doing is I'm not giving an opinion, but I'm giving inflections that I'm not sure what's going on with me, when actually I am real sure what's going on with me.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want them to know my opinion or point of view at this point, because once they know my point of view, they know how to answer that question to get me to be able to, you know. I mean, here's the thing, like the chemicals. Like, here's a classic example. All of a sudden, you're in a relationship, you're married, 2 years later, okay, I'm ready to have children now. And it's like, children? I don't want children. And it's like, we talked about this at the very beginning, and you said you wanted to have children. No, I didn't. Now, because of the drugs that get released once we have sex and we get, you know, into this fantasy world, or, you know, infatuation, we start forgetting conveniently about stuff. And in fact, it's not just about forgetting, it's about we actually hear what we want to hear. And it's weird. They did this study with an attorney, or an attorney who taught law at a famous, it was Stanford, I believe. And you know, the lecture halls where the stairs go all the way up, right? And you got 100 and some people in there. And the one day he decided that he wanted to see, you know, how people perceive things. So he had a briefcase next to his lectern, and he had somebody run in, steal the briefcase, run out the door. He said, "Everybody stop. I want you to write down exactly what you experienced. Write it down right now." The person was black, the person was white, was a woman wearing a miniskirt, had long hair. They were all different responses. And this has been replicated. And in research, you need to replicate in order for it to be valid, right? So that's why attorneys hate eyewitnesses, because we actually see things differently through our eyes. It's our world, not everybody's world. That's why it's important to get into somebody else's world. So that's potentially what happens at the beginning if we're not mindful and really communicating from a place where we can find out the real deal.
Mm-hmm. This is really very, very, very important stuff that the majority, again, of people, unless you really care about having an amazing relationship, do the research, find coaches who can work with you on this. The self-awareness expansion is not there because we are selfish creatures to begin with. So until we absolutely understand ourselves in that self-love, we can't experience or we can't share our unconditional love with anyone else. So I love what you just said, because that is so true in a relationship. Very, very powerful stuff, because that's what makes and breaks relationships.
No question.
Is how we interact with them. Let's talk about, and this goes alongside of that, and I had to learn this because somebody said this to me years ago, and I was like, okay. Taking 100% responsibility.
So taking 100% responsibility means that we are actually co-creators in life. Now, for people that don't know what a co-creator is, like, we create stuff together, and then we also create stuff with ourselves and our higher power, whatever that is, whatever our higher power is. Most people don't want to take 100% responsibility. I'll give you an example. So in my last relationship, it was the first relationship where I was actually living the lifestyle I wanted to live. And I was in Portland, Oregon, and I had moved out there, and we had just become intimate physically and stuff after a year and a half of being friends. And when I came back, I was coming back to do a landmark course, and I was already in Portland, but things weren't working the way that I wanted them to. So we had a conversation, and she said, I want it to be an open relationship. And I said, well, that doesn't really work for me. I want it to be a polyamorous relationship where we meet people together, and then if we decide to bring them into the relationship to play, we do that. And she says, well, that doesn't work for me. So I ended up going into the relationship anyway. That's an example like that. The things that happened after that were a result of me not taking 100% responsibility at the beginning, because I already knew what was going to happen based upon where she was at. So, that's an example where you have to be 100% responsible for everything in your life. Even if you're in an abusive relationship, it's your responsibility to get out of it. People that are in it for 20 years and then want to keep blaming, it's like it takes two to tango. So being 100% responsible is like, how can I be and what can I do to transform the situation different than what it is right now? That means I have to do something different, and that typically means we have a blind spot because we're not doing something different. We're trying the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And that's, in psychology, the definition, not the formal definition, but one of the ones we throw around, that's insanity.
Yes.
So we're responsible for everything that we create in our lives. And if you talk to successful people, they'll talk about opportunity. And if you talk to unsuccessful people, they'll talk about scarcity and lack. Now, then you talk to people about the law of attraction, and they're like, the law of attraction doesn't work for me. Yeah, but you'll talk to somebody else that's successful about law of attraction. They'll say law of attraction works for me. Well, it actually works for both. It's just that you're attracting negative stuff because that's what you're focused on. Mm-hmm. Energy flows where attention goes.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Let's talk about spirit and sex, or sex and spirit.
Yeah, it's always a fun topic because a lot of people that talk to me knowing that I live this polyamorous, BDSM, pansexual lifestyle, they say, like, that's not very spiritual. It's like, yes, it is. It's very spiritual because it's not the lifestyle that's spiritual. It's what the person brings to the relationship. So for me, like, for example, sex is many different things. It's deep spiritual connection, maybe, doing some tantra exercises with my partner, deep emotional connection, a connection to God, to the Great Spirit, whatever. And at the same time, it can be, just having awesome physical sex and, all these other different things. So it's all spiritual, but it all comes back to the intent of one another, because the true spiritual connection is being present with another human being. I mean, I talk to people all the time. that come to me, over the years about sex. And like, do you look deep into your partner's eyes when you're having sex? Oh God, no. That's too intimate. It's like, that's spiritual sex. See, when you look directly into the soul of somebody through their eyes, you can't help but be intimate. You can't help but get aroused. And it means that you have to be transparent. I mean, that gets into a whole other conversation, but like our fears, our dreams, being fully self-expressed. And when we can be fully self-expressed, our partner will trust us explicitly and will be able to engage in practices that are not, that we may have looked at in the past as being shadow practices, but now we're bringing light to them. The only real shadow practices are the ones that we hide, that we don't want people to know about, because we have shame, fear, guilt, or loneliness around that stuff, which are all dysfunctional emotions. So when we're present with somebody with an open heart and fully loving them, as long as we're not hurting them or somebody else or ourselves, that's where sex and spirit come together. It's not just plain vanilla or doing sex just the same way over and over again. Many times that's why people in relationship, it starts to die, because there's no variety there. And you don't need to be with different people like I would be to have variety. You can have it with your partner in a monogamous relationship, but you have to be open. That's the important thing. You have to be open to doing things differently and releasing any shame, guilt, etc. around those practices.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. I was once with a fella who didn't want to look into the eyes because it was too intimate. And that's when I said, okay, bye.
Yeah.
That's where you have to cut the line somewhere, because truly it's self-respect as well. Not just self-love, but it's self-respect, and they go hand in hand. But
same thing.
Yeah. So share with us this gift that you were talking about a bit ago.
Okay, so I got 2 free gifts for you. You're going to get a twofer today. So the first one is the Holistic Integrative Breathing CDs. And I've been selling these CDs for years. They're great. Well, I've had my virtual assistant now has downloaded my CDs into MP3 files. And I don't do this, and I'm only going to do it for you guys that go to the link, and that'll all be explained to you, that you can download all of my CDs. I think there's 10 or 11 of them for free, and just use them over and over again and develop your own holistic integrative breathing practice. So that's my first free gift. That will accelerate self-love and keep your energy flowing in your body and keep you balanced if you practice that. So that's the first one. The second one is an ebook that I wrote on transforming relationships, and it's a culmination of many articles that I had written for a magazine, for a wellness magazine out of Delaware. And I completely edited it and added stuff to it. And all you have to do is go to my website, which is drrustysloveshack.com. Isn't that great? drrustysloveshack.com or rustystewartphd.com. Either one will take you to the same site, and just sign up for my email list, and you'll automatically get sent to you a copy of the ebook that you can download and read for yourself. So those are the 2 free gifts that I'm offering. Enjoy them, and I appreciate any feedback that you could give me about them too.
Awesome. Great. And if you do sign up for that ebook, you'll also get information on an interview series that Rusty is having in April on relationships and love. And we all want to be loved more. We want to love more, and we want to experience love. So that's awesome. So Rusty, share with us one last juicy thought for the audience before we say goodbye.
One last juicy thought. Well, getting back to self-love, I would say is have a love affair with yourself. And part of that is also the sexual piece, is like learn about your body, learn about what you love about your body, learn about all the different intricacies in your body, and really get in touch with yourself. Because when you're really in touch with yourself, both big L love, which is in the Course of Miracles, big L love is God, is the light, and also get in touch with the little L love, because the little L love is all the pleasure and the special relationships that we will have in life. We're just inevitably going to have that. But it's important, because if you get in touch with both pieces of that, you're going to have a much more successful relationship with someone, because you're going to know when to say no. You're going to know when to say yes. You also will start to learn when to ask somebody out who intimidates you, because those many times are the people that will take us to a different level and play a bigger game. We many times will settle to be with somebody to have more control than to play with somebody at a higher level, which will require a greater level of responsibility and growth for both of us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much. And please enjoy the gifts. I know you're going to love them.
Yes, we all are going to love them. I'm going to actually do the breathing thing myself. So thank you. I love that. Yeah. Thank you all for joining us for this segment with Rusty, and we'll see you in another one. Bye.
Bye-bye.